Good afternoon. This is a tutorial video on how to operate the sound booth here at Shepherd of Peace Lutheran Church. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what you need to do when you're coming in to begin a worship service and you need to power on the various components of the AV booth. There are three main components that need to be powered on when you are going to start a worship service. The first is our laptop computer or PC. There's a power button in the upper right-hand corner of the keyboard here. It's a little circle with a white dot. You press that to get the computer booted up. When the computer boots up, it will come up to a screensaver with a password protection. For those of you that are going to be operating the sound booth, I will give you that password for you to get into the computer. The second piece is our Behringer sound mixer board. And the last piece is a power strip located over here on the left-hand side of the AV booth. You'll see a red light in the back there. When that red light is on, that means that power strip is on. For the sound mixer board, up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see three white labels. The one says Power Mixer on first. That's a good recommendation, but it doesn't have to be. The two white labels going vertical say Power Switch 1 and Power Switch 2. Your mixer board has two power switches located on the back of the unit. Just take two fingers, go right along the top of those white strips, go all the way to the bottom of the mixer board, and you'll feel two toggle switches. When the mixer board is powered on, you pull those switches towards you to turn it on, or to turn it off, you follow the exact same procedure and push those two toggle buttons down. When you power that off properly, the LED lights along the mixer board will go off. So pretty self-explanatory there. Once you have all of the components powered up, now I'm going to give you a demonstration of the software that we use on the laptop and the operation of the mixer board. So the first thing I'm going to do is the mixer board because it's a little bit easier to cover. So I'm going to zoom in here. On the mixer board, there are two components that you're going to use primarily. These gray buttons at the bottom that go all the way along here, those are slide volume buttons for volume control of the individual ports that you see labeled here on the bottom. So the labels, starting from the far left, are Pastor's wireless microphone, the lectern microphone, which is located right in front of the AV booth, the Clavinova organ or piano, the way it's labeled here, the PC or laptop computer, the DVD players, which we really don't use a whole lot. About the only time we use the DVD players is if we're doing a movie night or some special event for the Little Lambs Daycare or something of that nature. The last two labels, this red label here, or it's a white label with a red slide button, this is the audio feed for our live streaming. You should not have to touch that red button at all. Matter of fact, on the mixer board just to the right of that button is a little line, and that red button should always equal up with that line in order to control and maintain the volume of the audio that's going out on our live video feed. The last label over here on the right, and it's actually two slide volumes, is our master volume. Along the left-hand side of those are some numbers. Those two black buttons should always line up with the 0 written on the mixer board. That keeps the audio feeds all consistent throughout your operation of the worship service. The other component on the mixer board that you might use is actually located right above these gray buttons. And they're little black buttons that go up and down. When you press it down, a little yellow LED light comes on. These black buttons are mute buttons for that particular audio feed. So for example, when Pastor is done talking and we're going to start a song, whether it be on the organ or through the music videos, he prefers that we always mute his microphone, and we do that by pressing this black button right at the top, and you'll notice that that yellow light is already on right here. When I touch that black button and take it off, that yellow light goes off. that means that his microphone is now live, and anything he says is going to be picked up and broadcast through the speakers here in the sanctuary. So I'm going to go ahead and remute him. That's the way we start every worship service off, is with him muted, because when he's greeting people as he's coming into the sanctuary, we want to make sure that nothing is coming through the speakers. Oftentimes I will forget to mute the live stream, so some of those comments do come through the live stream. We try to do a good job of muting it, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So the gray sound levels for these different feeds, pastor's microphone is usually always right equal with that bottom set of black buttons that you see here. The lectern mic is always up at the top, because right now it's not a very good microphone, so it's hard to pick up things, and we're looking to replace that microphone, and when we do, that volume will come down a little bit as a normal setting. The slide buttons for the organ and the PC are kind of a little bit staggered with the empty spot right next to it. You'll kind of see they're a little bit higher up from each other. We keep them that way because it's easier to increase the volume when we start a song on the organ or on the computer, so we don't blow out those listening and attending worship service. It's easier to start off low and then increase our volume by sliding that port up. And then towards the end of the song, we'll slide it back down so that we're keeping everybody in good hearing volume levels while they're attending worship. Those are the only buttons we really handle on the soundboard. You won't touch anything else. I lied. On the Red live stream, when we start a music video, in order to comply with copyright laws, we must mute the audio feed going out over the live stream. So right before we start a music video in the software, I will go over and I take that mute button off, and that allows the people watching the live stream to begin or continue hearing the worship service. Hopefully all that makes sense, and when we do some hands-on training, I will walk through all of that with you again. I also have taken a picture of the soundboard settings of how it should look to start off service, so that you'll have a nice visual indicator or reference to double check to make sure somebody hasn't come in and messed with the volumes or messed with any of the buttons. You'll have a nice reference which I'll hang right at the top of the AV stand for you to reference. So now with that, I'm going to move over to the laptop where the VideoPsalm software is at. On the computer desktop, right here in the middle, is an icon of a yellow sunflower. That is the VideoPsalm software. When you first come in to start up a worship, this is the first thing you want to do after you power up the laptop, is double-click this icon, because it takes probably 2 to 3 minutes for the VideoPsalm software to first launch up. Once it's started, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. This screen is the VideoPsalm desktop. There are 5 windows located in the screen, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and 1 big one right here in the middle. Up here in the left-hand corner where it says Empty Agenda, this is where you will see a list of each one of the slides that we will be playing as part of our worship service. This includes the slides you see on the screen, the lyrics to music songs that are played on the Clavinova organ, as well as a line for any music videos that are inserted into worship. In the bottom left-hand corner, you will not use any of that. Don't even worry about it. It's built-in songbooks and Bible verses that aren't really used by LCMS or here at Shepherd of Peace. In the middle screen is a bigger area, and this is going to be a preview screen, so that if you click on a line item in your agenda once, it can be previewed here in the middle screen. To begin a worship service, you're actually going to double click the very first item in your agenda. When you do that, you're going to see that screen here in the middle, and down here in the right-hand corner is a window that gives you an indicator of what is going out live to the projector. Now, when we do this, up here in the upper right-hand corner is only used when we're playing music videos. And down at the bottom, and I'll show you that here in a minute, there is a play and a pause button. You don't want to use that during a worship service. But right below that is going to be a visual indicator that shows where you are in the song, so that as you're getting to the end, you know when you're going to be able to get ready to unmute the audio feed on the sound mixer, as well as be ready to switch the screens in the live feed, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. So the first thing we want to do, 90% of the time when you're getting ready to start a worship service, is over here in the agenda window in the upper left-hand corner, there are 5 little icons here right next to it. A yellow manila folder that opens up a directory that contains the agendas that have been pre-saved with worship service content. The icon right below it is a green plus sign, and that allows you to add individual components inserted into that agenda. That green plus sign might be indicating or adding a PowerPoint presentation. It could add a website. It could add a music video. It could add a Word document or a PDF file. It gives you a lot of flexibility once you've opened your agenda that you've created to insert something at the last minute. So pastor may have something on Sunday morning that says, hey, I've got this slide for this presentation I'm going to do during sermon. Can you insert that slide? That is how I would use that button. So first thing I'm going to do is click on the yellow manila folder. A little submenu pops open that says open the agenda or open an agenda. A Windows Explorer window will pop open, and in here you're going to see agendas that I've created over the last 2 years. Usually the most recent agenda that I've created is on top. So in this case it is, and it's labeled Video Psalm Agenda, the date and the day of the week. I use that naming convention so that if it's not me running the worship service, they can easily see that, you know, what day of the week is it that I'm opening, and is that today's date. So I'll use 10/6 Sunday as our demonstration here, and I'll click open in the lower right-hand corner. In the middle of the screen, you'll see a please wait loading in progress. That's just telling me that it's loading the agenda that I just selected to get ready for this worship service. All right, the agenda has opened up in the upper left-hand corner. It tells you a title of the agenda right at the top. And the first thing you want to do is, again, I mentioned the preview window in the middle. If I click once on the very first item in my agenda, a preview window pops open here. And this is the title slide, Shepherd of Peace, Sunday, October 6, 2019. I'm ready. I can pretty much sure this is the slide I want to start on. So to get started, I double click on it. You'll see that slide open up here. And if I go full screen here, up here on this monitor is also what is going out live to the projection screen behind me. So it's an easy reference for me as an operator to either look at the preview window in the lower right-hand corner of my laptop or look up here and see what's on the projection screen behind me. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'll go back over here to my PC. In order to progress slide by slide through the worship service, the only thing you have to do is hit the space bar. When you hit that space bar, it's going to go slide by slide through what is listed on your agenda here in the upper left-hand corner. You have to pay attention to what's going on in service by looking to your right and watching what pastor's doing, and you can follow along. If you want to use the printed bulletin as your reference, you can do that, or just follow along in the agenda with where you're at in the worship service. When you get to a point, let's say you've clicked the space bar one too many times too early. On the keyboard, you can use the up and down arrows to go backwards or forwards in the presentation to get to the spot you need to get back to. It's just an easy way of correcting, an extra click on the space bar that you didn't intend to do. Nice and easy. During our worship services, when it comes time to, like right now, I'm on slide 28, which tells me it's going to be a sermon I hymn. It's I Can Only Imagine. That is my indicator. As soon as Pastor is done introducing this video, I will then reach over to the mute button for the red slide portion, which again is my live stream. I'm going to press that mute button and then hit the space bar to move to the music video. Make sense? So that way the copyright laws are complied with. And for anybody that's watching the live streaming, we have a little disclaimer on our website that says during live music videos, the audio stream the audio portion of our live stream will be muted. Hopefully that makes sense. At the very end of a song, within Video Psalm, I will try to get this to the very end so you can see it. The screen will go black down here in the lower right-hand corner. It will stay there until you hit spacebar either once or twice, and I'll do that right now. So in this case, I had to, because I manually manipulated it, I hit it twice to move on to the next screen. You won't have to do what I just did there during a regular service because it will be the next item in your agenda. So here you just keep hitting spacebar. When it gets to Pastor's sermon, there is a title slide, like here you see message Pastor Ben Perkins and the title of the sermon that he's going to give. Usually I will leave this screen up for the first 30 seconds to a minute of his sermon, just to kind of give people an idea of his theme. And then I will hit spacebar, which turns the screen on the projector black. And that allows the audience and the congregation to focus on him and what he's saying in his sermon. At the end of his sermon, when he gives the blessing at the end of the sermon and is getting ready for the prayers, I will then hit the space bar to proceed to the prayers of the church, which is usually, most of the time, right after his sermon. Hopefully that makes sense. And you'll just continue hitting the space bar to move on in the worship service. You can do that all the way through the end of the service. And at the end of the service, then you'll go up in the upper right-hand corner of the video psalm, click the X to shut down video psalm, and you're good to go. Okay? So just as a quick review of what we covered the laptop, the way to start, stop, and to close out of Video Psalm software. We learned about the sound mixer board and what each of the gray volume control buttons are for. We learned what the little black mute buttons along the top of the gray slide buttons are for. We learned about the live streaming red button here, which should never be touched, only the mute button located right above it. And we located or identified the power strip and the power buttons for the mixer board and to do a shutdown on the laptop. Make sense? We will schedule some hands-on training just to allow you to become familiar with how to operate the soundboard, how to power everything on, how to operate the display and how to use it, and how to set up an agenda, how to use an agenda, and how to close an agenda. For the advanced course, once we get that all under control and become familiarized with it, I will show you what the iPad is used for. This is really only used for the live streaming. It runs the Mevo software that is used to control a camera that sits in the second windowsill along the left-hand side of the sanctuary. And you probably have seen it. It's about 8 to 10 inches high, and it's a black cylinder. And that's the whole camera and power supply that is used to handle the live streaming for our worship services. And it's also the camera I'm using today, which is why you see me touching this to control whether I'm zoomed in on the laptop, zoomed in on the sound mixer board, as well as to start and stop our live streaming out to our YouTube channel. So hopefully that was beneficial to you and gives you a little bit more familiarity. Back here in the back here are our DVD players. Because it's used so infrequently, I will give you, anybody that's going to be operating those for a movie night or whatnot, I'll give you one-on-one training with how to operate those. Those, again, are controlled through the DVD audio feed labeled DVD. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for being willing to volunteer and help us with our soundboard, which enhances our worship services and help run the live streaming for those shut-ins or people that can't make it to our worship services. Have a great day, and God bless.